Hi there. Hi, Alberto. So maybe we can begin. Thanks for the people that have joined so far. Developer from the community. Hi to, I think for now we have Stefan, also Jake, Red Manor, Faberto, Alberto, and Stefan, and Maestro usernames.
Hi guys.
Hi guys. So the idea of this session is to start syncing with developers from the community that are active in the development of Nimiq 2.0, and that you're curious about the progress and also how to contribute in the future and when things are going to, or how to start testing them. So we want to sync on that topic and share some information about where we're at right now, and later in a casual way also get some questions from you and also answer them and go over it from a technical perspective. So maybe Philip can start explaining what is the current status and what have we been doing or working on in the last weeks.
Sure. So first of all, also thanks guys for coming and for your contributions to the Nimiq community. And let me just give you like a very brief rundown on what's going on right now. So we had the progress update blog post, I think end of June or beginning of July. And I think many of the things that were in there are still kind of current. So right now we are really in a debugging and testing phase. So the software has grown quite complex. It is far more complex than the Nimiq 1.0 version, and there are a bunch of stuff that doesn't work correctly and that needs to be fixed. So, but the testing is actually moving on pretty well. I think we cracked some of the annoying issues that had been lingering around for quite a while. Most notably, I think a network issue where we are randomly dropping outbound messages. So if the timing was bad due to like a buffer initialization in a write call that shouldn't be there, we could basically override messages that were already queued for sending, and if the timing was just right, then we would basically just randomly drop messages, and that would cause request timeouts and then peers disconnecting, and that led to all kinds of nasty stuff. For example, the sync not working correctly, and that one is fixed now. Also, lots of issues or lots of bugs fixed in the sync itself. So it's not on the stable branch yet, but probably by tomorrow, quite a few bug fixes on the sync, which now can also catch up to a very fast moving chain in a local setup. So with like 130 milliseconds of block time, we can still sync well. And then also fix some validator bugs. I think most notably the receiver already registered bug which was caused by some handle aggregations not being shut down correctly after a blockchain state change. Yeah, and I think those fixes already contributed a lot to the overall stability of the client. There's still, of course, some stuff open. So, for example, right now, I think Basti is investigating a stall that is related to transaction gossiping. So, it kind of only happens if there's like some transaction load going on, and that can probably fill up some internal queue and then stall the network task, and then the stuff kind of stops working. Yeah, as part of that effort, the general debugging and testing effort, we are also working to improve the unit test coverage to generally give a better structure to the whole automated testing suite that we are writing. We also have like 2 new team members that I can also welcome here, Claudio and JD, that are going to be together with Jeff, going to be working on that and getting a better grip on the whole testing aspect. Also to create better test tooling, and also apart from the Docker setup, which I think some of you guys have also been using to test stuff. We've made it easier to just test with multiple processes or multiple instances of the client in one machine. So, for example, you can now run a single validator setup with just one node that acts as a validator and can produce a chain without actually having multiple validators. And that also makes it a lot easier to test syncing correctly, for example. Yeah, I think the next big topic is the staking contract refactoring, or the changes we are doing to the staking contract, where we are generally changing the way that the staking contract is persisted in the account tree, because it is dynamically sized and can actually grow quite large. And maybe I can just have Bruno explain a little bit more what's going on there, because he's the one taking care of that.
Well, yes. So I've been working on the staking contract for the last couple of months. The original idea was that we needed a more robust staking contract, because what we had before, and still on the main branch, it's just a big blob of data, basically. So as you have more validators and stakers, it gets quite big. It wouldn't be efficient for nano clients to download the entire staking contract just to get their staking balance or just check a validator. And even in efficiency terms was not great. So we wanted more of a sub-tree kind of format for it. So individual validators and individual stakers on the leaves of our account tree. So that's probably the main change. Now each validator in each staker is quite similar to a normal account. So it's quite easy to fetch, and you can prove it individually to nano clients. And also we did make a few more changes to it. The guys are going to note. The validator stake now is 10,000 NIM, and it's a fixed amount also. What more? Let's see. We added a few keys also to the validators. Validators before only had one key, the validator key, that was a VLS key. That was not ideal. First, for efficiency reasons, VLS keys are quite slow to verify and sign, and quite big. And also for security reasons, because that single validator key was out key. Validators needed to sign blocks, but it also allows you to do some other operations to the validator, like updating the reward address or entirely dropping the validator. So in terms of operational security for staking pools, it was going to be a problem. So we added new keys, basically a cold key, a warm key, and now the validator key, the VLS key, is only used to sign blocks, nothing else. The warm key is used to update a validator or retire and park, more normal things that the validator needs to do during operation, but they don't really compromise security. And then the cold key is supposed to be kept offline, and is used to actually change data on the validator and drop it, and operations that you're not supposed to do that often. And this should simplify the staking pool operation quite a bit. Another difference also for the stakers, that now they are explicit objects in the accounts tree, and they only stake for one validator at a time. That simplifies the restaking process a bit, because before you had to specify that you wanted to stake on behalf of that specific staker and for a given validator, and now you only say that you want to add stake to that staker, and you just add the stake to whatever validator he is already staking for. There wasn't really a problem for staking pools, but for front end it was going to be a problem. Anyways, there is a PR on our GitHub on this staking contract. It is quite detailed. The staking contract changes themselves are mostly finished, so now we're just redoing all the tests and adding documentation, and basically getting it ready to be merged. But if you guys just want to see how the contract changes, you can already see that. Although it doesn't run yet because of the tests. But yeah, I think that's a somewhat high-level explanation.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
About hot and cold key. So do I understand correctly, use the cold key to do like, or the hot key to do payout and cold key to do validation of blocks? Or is it...
Well, the payouts are done from your reward address, right?
Yeah,
so there's an entirely different key.
Okay.
There's not even a validator key. That remains as it was before. It just goes to your reward address, and then your reward address key, it's yours to do what you want.
Yeah, exactly. So how is the hot and cold key useful? Because both need to be on the validator, right?
Not the cold one, no. Now there are three keys: the cold, the warm, and the hot. The hot was what you had before.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically now,
key, it needs to be on the validator sign blocks. The warm key is used. The warm key is used to unpark the validator and retire the validator, so that needs to be online also. But the cold key doesn't. And the cold key is what is used to drop the validator and change information on the validator, like the reward address and other keys. The idea is if someone compromises your validators and gets the hot key and the warm key, the most they can do is get you, slashed basically.
Okay, now I understand. Yeah. So I was thinking, what's the security benefit? But the cold key is actually used to change your state of the validator, right?
Yes. Because before you only had that validator key, so if someone got access to it, they could just change the validator key and essentially lock you out of your validator.
Yeah. Are those keys interchangeable to have a dual setup? Because
what do you mean interchangeable?
Can we use them on another validator installation?
Yes.
So I want to run 2 VMs with both a validator, because otherwise if one VM is crashing for some reason, hardware failure or anything, I don't want to be slashed, of course. So I want to be, need to get the uptime really quickly. Otherwise I get slashed and I get thrown out of the epoch, and that's quite a long time. So I need to be up and running in the fastest time. So I can use those keys as well on another validator. So I need the hot key, the cold key.
Well, if it's just on another computer acting as a backup, of course you can do it. If you want to register different validators with the same keys, you can do it for the warm and for the hot one. The cold key is used also as the ID now, as the address of that validator. So you won't be allowed to do that.
Okay. Cool.
But the warm and the hot one, you can do it. It's fine.
Okay. It's probably good to test that in a scenario if I just put out a VM, let it crash, and let's see what happens. Well, in a later state, if we can run validators just on a machine, we can probably test it. Thanks.
Yeah, just try it out after we merge it. It should be in probably a week or two, something like that.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Sorry for my question.
You're welcome. That's the purpose of this. Yeah.
Exactly. No, thank you for your question. Also thanks, Bruno, for the details on the staking contract.
You're welcome.
I think basically this is like the main task that we're working on. Maybe some informational things I already mentioned, like 2 new team members, Gauri and JD. who are also located in Costa Rica. They joined beginning of August, so it's like this is their first week. And then we are also starting to move all the issue tracking to GitHub again. We're using a bunch of internal tools, but have now decided to just put everything on GitHub because it's easiest for the community members to see what's going on and to keep track of what's happening. So we're in the process of moving all the issues there. And also did some cleanup on the repository. So the lab test branch that we were talking about in the blog post is no more. We have just declared Albatross to be the stable branch. And so any testing that you guys might want to do should be done against the Albatross branch now. Yeah, I think that's pretty much the update and the current status. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, if you want to discuss anything, then I think now would be the time. Maybe pass it back to Richie.
Yes, can I ask a question?
Yes, sure.
Please go ahead, Stefan.
So one interesting thing I noticed is that I don't see any WebAssembly as a target at all, like in the repository. Is that still planned or something, or does other stuff needs to be finished first before that actually can be made possible? Because I imagine you want to have it running in the browser eventually, centralized. So
for sure. So we moved everything that is related to, everything that is not related to full nodes. We kind of pushed back to the state where we have basically everything related to the full nodes running already. So we kind of everything that's related to WebAssembly we have basically in the whole nano node bucket, right? Because all the browser nodes are going to be nano nodes, and they need the nano sync and need to be able to prove the chain with the zero knowledge proof. And we do have the whole proving part already implemented, even though some of it is right now disabled. It's also one of the issues that's on GitHub already, to re-enable that public tree root computation that we need to put into every election block, because it is pretty expensive. And right now for testing, it was easier to kind of leave it out. But the whole WASM stuff, we are going to start looking at once basically all the full nodes are running smoothly. Yeah, that's why there's no activity related to that on the repository yet.
I see. So I imagine, you eventually get like a testnet out, and then in parallel, you guys can work on the WebAssembly part as well to get browser support up and running.
Exactly. That was the plan.
That's a plan, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Is there also coming a development environment just with a real life chain with only for developers, like we had in Nimiq 1.0, right? I think we have an official DevNet, so we can try to break it. We're pretty good at it. So.
Yeah, for sure. I think we will definitely get the DevNet up and running, but only once I think we have basically sorted out all the issues that we are able to kind of find with our testing setups, right? Because there's still a long list of issues to kind of work through. And once this kind of converges to a state where, a public testing setup makes sense, then we are definitely going to have this. And I think the more stable it becomes, especially if there are also not going to be any changes to the chain state anymore. So basically, that we don't have to hard fork stuff. Then I think it makes sense to have this DevNet. Even though we're still going to be hard forking it, pretty sure, but I think there's no benefit in having this DevNet while we still have a bunch of known issues that we need to work through.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. But I think with the whole multi-process setup, and maybe we can also share some context later on. I think it has become actually very easy to just run a local setup. I mean, with the Docker setup, that already works very well. But of course, Docker is also pretty heavyweight. Basically just running a bunch of different nodes, Nimiq nodes that just use different config files on your machine directly is actually a very, very lightweight way of just running the network, especially with the single validator setup. And then that also allows you to test sync stuff easily, like have nodes join. Of course, it's better suited for like manual testing and manual scenario testing, but it's, I think, also a very easy way to test the whole to test the client while there is no DevNet running yet.
Yeah, the local setup works pretty good. We only have problems if we try to put a lot of stakers on it, right? Mm-hmm. But it would also be pretty nice if we could just run it on a few VMs and just separate everything from one machine to several machines, and then maybe we can analyze also if something goes wrong if you just do it on one machine, right? Because you also have shared hardware and shared memory and with Docker and stuff. And also some machines have pretty high memory usage for no apparent reason. So if we can separate it, it would be great as well. Mm-hmm. So more of a DevNet, but locally, but on a few machines or something. So we have no Docker layer to interfere, or Docker to interfere with testing.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think that we have this on our scenario roadmap yet, but I will definitely note it down because I agree. I mean, having real-world network conditions will turn up a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah,
by local.
Yeah, I have a virtual machine, Proxmox, and I can just run a few VMs and then run on every VM just a node and have a real network with a switch in between. It's still a little virtual, but it's not Docker. So then I exactly know what's happening and I can monitor all traffic and that kind of stuff. So would be cool, but it's not necessary or something. Just don't. But it would be nice, I guess.
On that note, also, sorry. On that note, also, I do not know if any of you guys have ever tried to actually sync an additional node to, for example, the Docker setup. But that is also something that we put quite some focus on during the last weeks and also currently, and it works pretty well actually. So if you guys wanted to try this out, and feel free and report bugs that you encounter.
Yeah, that's fine. We can test that for you. So just run a chain and then add a node later, right? So
yeah, you can just
sync up and then
exactly
be participating in the network when it's all synced up.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can test it. If you want any performance testing with a lot of users, we can do that as well. We actually, Jake made some nice packages to a CLI tool to put a lot of stakers, because I asked him, can we put a lot of stakers on our validator so we can try and see where the bottleneck is in our pool? So if you guys want us to test anything like that, we can do that as well.
So as far as I'm aware, the issue that Jack created on GitHub that I am currently looking at is basically that scenario, and obviously breaks. And I found a couple of issues there. One I have already written down in the GitHub issue. Another being that it appears as if the calculation basically for microblocks, there is a difference between whether or not we are recognizing ourselves as the validator who is supposed to produce a block proposal, and who we expect to produce that block proposal if it is not us. And that difference led to the setup that Jack was running to become extremely slow, in particular around the microblocks, because the aggregations for signatures for the microblock would just go through rounds and rounds and rounds. Because the proposer obviously then is always the wrong proposer, except for when it coincides, which happens, but is not like guaranteed by no means. So that is also fixed. I'm currently writing tests for this, so that it's not going to reoccur at some point in the future. But yeah, it's always great to, whenever stuff happens, to have like bug reports as detailed as that one with logs attached and everything. So that was really amazing, really nice.
Well done, Jay.
Yeah, indeed.
I have no further questions, I guess.
I have one question. Is it already possible to connect nodes externally to each other? Because I know that a few months ago, you came up with the Docker lab test, because in Docker it worked perfectly, but connecting in an external node had some issues. Is it already doable or stable to try out?
Yeah, that is exactly what I was referring to. So it's one of the test cases that I am running is basically, so my Docker setup runs in a VM. So I'm building my Docker setup, let the guys run, the nodes run for a couple of epochs, maybe a couple of thousand blocks. And then just create outside of the VM and on my regular machine, just create another client and connect to that setup, have it sync up, and yeah, like try to have it enter follow mode, so that it actually establishes consensus with the other peers, and that works. So yeah, you can, if you wanted to, you can try this out. If that was the question. Yeah.
Thanks.
Are there more details already available regarding like how the whole process, the hard fork process, will look like from 1.0 to 2.0? Or is that just too far in the future yet?
No, they are. So on a high level, I mean, we have already started working on that mechanism. It is a little bit on hold right now in favor of having more testing and better test coverage. But the general idea there is that we basically have a 2.0 client, which is which is ready like way before the actual hard fork date, and that can be installed and started basically before the actual hard fork date, there to date, while the 1.0 chain is still running, but it's going to be like a separate independent client. And that client will basically be uninitialized. It won't have a Genesis block to start from. And at a certain point in time, when we basically update when we shut down the 1.0 chain, this will happen at a certain block height, at a certain predefined block height. And then there will be a process of exporting the chain state from the old chain and converting that state to the initial state of the 2.0 chain. And then there will be, it's basically kind of right now it's planned like as a trusted setup phase where we basically create a signed initial Genesis state from the old chain, and then distribute that Genesis block to the existing 2.0 network, and then the Genesis block will be propagated. The clients will start syncing the old chain's state, and then we'll start producing blocks on the new chain. That's basically the high-level process that is planned to activate the new chain.
And there has to be like a certain amount of agreement because miners have to stop eventually as well, right? So there's a process for that as well.
So, I mean, we can, of course, put something in the 1.0 client that shuts it down at a certain height. But ultimately, I mean, there's nothing that we can basically do to kill the old chain, right? It's basically after the block height that is predefined as the hard fork block height. I think the 1.0 we can put it in there that the 1.0 client just stops doing something or just stops doing anything. But I mean, it would also be fine if the 1.0 chain just continues, but it will just be kind of disregarded, right? Everything past that block height is not, is not relevant anymore, because from that point on, we are going to be using the 2.0 chain. That's like the kind of the idea. So by basically having two chains set up in parallel, we can also see, that the network is actually healthy, that the peers that we need to start the network actually up and running, and activate it like that. But this is the current idea. There might also be, changes to the process still coming in. I mean, initially we wanted to have like one single client that we update. We have moved away from that a little bit now to having just two clients in parallel. Yeah, so I think as we go along, we might make some changes to this approach. But this is, I think, the high level idea that we are pursuing right now.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, no further questions for now. Thanks.
Sure. So are there any more questions at this point?
I have a question for the guys who are implementing the pool. Just out of curiosity, we thought, like at some point we thought about like when would probably be the time that pools would pay out. What is what is your rationale in how to actually tackle this? I mean, you could pay out like once an epoch, or you could pay out like every couple of epochs, or like every batch, or what is your thought process behind this?
Well, I think from our pool, Jay can probably tell it better, but we started off doing it every batch, right? And Jay?
Yeah, we started indeed by paying out every batch, but then I asked in the Telegram channel what would be the frequency of batches, which would be on testnet probably every 5 minutes or every 15 minutes, which is quite frequent. And also knowing that the bar for staking is a lot lower than mining, we expect also more users. So if you would have to pay out every batch, you also spam the blockchain full with transactions, which it can handle, but is not always that fancy, at least in our opinion. So we decided to batch the batches in collections, and we are still up for deciding on how many batches we are going to pay out at once, but at least we can. So in the lab test setup right now, we pay out every 2 batches, but in mainnet, we probably want to pay out every hour, and depending on how much batches are passing in an hour, we can configure it to be around 1 hour.
Yeah, so we wanted to, with Ace mining, we have every hour payout now. So we wanted to keep that, and we thought we could do that by just doing like 4 batches, because it was every 15 minutes. But then it was subject to change, so we thought, yeah, that's not really useful for in the future. If it's changing, we cannot really do it each hour. So we just thought we put it together and make our own collections and then pay out just every hour. And why every hour? why not? Because if you do it every epoch, that's 24 hours. Some people just like it to have their money earlier, right? So we cannot blame them. So, and for us, it's not really a big deal if we do that every hour or every what else interval we decide to choose. So I think it gives us a little bit of an edge in other pools if they do it every 24 hours. It's quite long because you also don't know if something went wrong or something went good, or you need to wait 24 hours. It's just about trust, I guess. People like to get paid out quick. That's what I see with Ace mining. And also they want to have, it doesn't matter how much they got, they want to pay out the lowest amount. And for us, it's a risk assessment. So if I don't hold your name for a long time, and if the validator is stolen for any reason, or it's compromised on any reason, we don't hold a lot of NIM. So every hour we do a payout, so it won't ever hold a lot of NIM. Maybe
that makes sense.
Maybe in the far future, but still, then it's negligible. Even our pool fee is paid out to another wallet, so there's no real risk. Yeah, the 10K that's on the wallet, on the validator, but the rest, there is no risk involved.
And I mean, I'm assuming that the payouts that you are doing are going to be directly to the stake and not to the address that is staking.
But do you mean exactly?
So you are able to send a transaction that is going to basically deposit the funds that you are paying out into the stake instead of to the address of the user, so that it is for the next epoch, it is going to be basically part of the stake.
Well, so you have a wallet address, right, where you get your reward from staking, and that wallet address we are monitoring continuously which people are staking on our validator, how much percentage of the total they have, and about that they get paid out minus the pool fee.
Yeah,
yeah, sure.
What Sebastian means is something different, but currently we pay them out as regular transactions, so they receive it in the wallet, not in the stake they currently have.
Okay. Because in that case, basically the consequential part would be kind of paying out in the last batch of an epoch, right? So that for the election block itself, the stake would be available for the pool. So that is what I kind of thought would probably happen, but it makes a lot of sense to not hold a bunch of them. So I do understand that for sure.
Yeah, it's also a user choice eventually. If a user wants their stake that they have made with our pool restaked again in, there is a choice there as well. So I don't know yet what we want to do with that, but we can change that eventually as well, or make it an option so that the user can make a choice on their own.
That was exactly what we were also thinking. That it's basically up to the user to decide whether he receives the funds as part of the stake or like outside of the staking contract.
Yeah.
From pool point of view, it probably makes most sense to have the restake as default, because then you basically always increase your own stake, right? By basically increasing the stakes of your stakers by giving them the rewards. That will basically increase the stake of your pool. So if in doubt, it probably makes more sense to by default pay out to the staking contract.
Yeah, well, it's also that the funds are locked, right? For a certain.
Yes, they are locked. That is correct.
So it's like hostaging someone's money in that sense.
Yeah, I think so. This, from a design point of view, it should be like the user's choice, right? And yeah, from a trust point of view, they already trust the validator to pay out the funds correctly, right? But yeah.
If I do recall correctly, we actually have plans in place to enable features like that, like users' choice kind of stuff within the wallet while staking. If the pool provides sort of an interface where we can like relay that information, I do think that there is stuff planned in that regard.
Yes, I think it is, but the API is not specified yet.
No.
Exactly.
It would also be nice if it could be in the staking contract itself. So if you are a delegated staker to a particular validator, it already says the amount of what you are staking, but you could also have an option on how to pay it out directly in the stake or in their wallet. And then let the pools implement that option, as in respecting the choice of the user in that way.
Right.
It's quite restrictive because that basically leads to the available choices being the ones that are encoded in the staking contract, while there are multiple things that you could think of, right? You could say, like, I want like 30% of my stake to go through my reward address and the remaining should be staked, for example. And
plus,
or like maybe other things.
Another issue with that is that it would require a new transaction to the staking contract every time you want to change your settings. And so we thought about that while designing it and decided against encoding it in the staking contract, partly due to the reasons Basti just mentioned, and also because it would require transactions on the chain.
And it's not enforceable anyway. It would only be a signal, a flag to the staking pools. It's not, necessary to have on chain.
Yeah, same. Yeah, exactly. We think that pools are very much capable of like providing these kinds of things to their users.
Basically, how I did it now with Minpool is pay out every checkpoint. So that would be like every 10 minutes. Obviously, I don't want to do it like every epoch, because that would, of course, be like around 24 hours, and you don't want to be like holding these funds for so long. But I agree with Jake that like every 15 minutes, it's like a high frequency. So maybe I thought of like bumping up the threshold for a bit more to like reduce that amount a bit. But yeah, it will probably be based on checkpoints for how I implemented it.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me for sure. Thinking of that, I have another question for the pool guys. I'm totally taking this over now and gathering information here. So do you plan on like introducing any sort of complex fee mechanic for your pools instead of like, for example, I mean, the most obvious choice is to say like there's a 5% fee or whatever. But there could be other things in place, like, for example, certain thresholds that you reach, you pay less fee, or maybe certain times that you have staked without interruption, you're paying less fee, stuff like that.
Yeah, we have implemented that, but Jay can probably tell it better. But we have levels. We have a minimum amount of pool fee and a maximum amount of pool fee, and that's if we are too big. For example, we want to help the network, right? So if probably everyone is staking at A staking, our pool fee will be really high. So people are.
Yeah, not really high, but at least, it's more of an ideology kind of way, indeed, that we don't want to be too big because that's unhealthy for the network. So if we become very large, the pool fee will increase a little, but not like 50% or something. But it's still, at least it's still a flat fee for everyone, and then based on the epoch.
It's a minimum flat fee, right?
Yeah.
And it's increased, but I said a lot, but I think it's a lot on the bigger scheme of things. So a few percent is a lot if you have a lot of NIM. So I hold more than 6 million NIM. So 6 million NIM, 2% is a lot. But but we want to help the network. That's our own ideology. And from a business perspective, it's not really good, because other pools can probably do a flat fee of 5% and don't do this at all. So we just throw in on our own windows. It's something we say, but so it's just that we want to help the network.
Yeah, I like that approach for sure.
Yeah, it's actually interesting that you guys are taking the lead on trying to control the size of your pool. Would it be useful for you guys to be able to close your pool to new stakers or something like that? But there's some option on that on the staking contracts.
Well, we also want to have a minimum amount that people stake. So
of course,
we ignore everything that's below 1 NIM, because it's just not. Yeah, I think 1 NIM was our first threshold, because it's not useful and the payout is so small. Every hour it's like
not worth it. Yeah.
Not worth it. So but I think it's useful. I don't know, Jake, what do you think?
Yeah, currently we indeed have some type of minimum, which is currently 0, by the way. But yeah, it could be costly operations to calculate and pay out transactions to users that don't have any value at the end of the road. So that's a kind of a way of, could also be an attack surface. Like I'm going to create 10,000 accounts with 1 NIM and then stake it to a specific validator. Then he has to do calculations for all those 10K accounts. So that's like some security perspective that we thought about, like, yeah, how are we going to handle that? Because that's probably going to break something somewhere. But,
but I was referring to the minimum so much, but since you guys don't want to exceed a given size, would it be useful for you guys to have an option where you would close your pool to new stakers? Because right now you can't really stop anyone from just staking on your pool. If they want, it just appears in the staking contract.
Well, it's up to the user, right? We increase our fee. So if they're happy with paying like 12% fee, it's up to them. If we close the pool, right, and a lot of stakers just leave, we need to unlock it again and allow users again. So I think with the the incentive to increase our fee, people won't stake as quickly on the pool, because it's just
basically since you control all the payouts, all the rewards, you can basically prevent people from staking to you by not giving them rewards, basically. That's kind of like your dynamic pool fee concept, just by increasing the fee to 100%, basically.
And the limits, true.
Exactly. That's the only thing we can control, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
But I think the fee will probably change in the future, but it also really depends on other pools and how they do it. You see that in other proof of stake pools, you don't really see a fee at all. They really use different algorithms, like return of investment type of percentages that we currently still stay away from for the time being. So we can't really say if it stays the way we have implemented it right now, but it was more of a, let's do it in a healthy way. I can't guarantee it stays that way, but we hope it can stay that way.
Yeah, indeed. We looked at other staking implementations, and some have a direct fee of a flat fee for 300 coins or something that a pool always gets, and a percentage base. And sometimes they call it a return of investment, and they get the return of investment part of what people should get based on, right? We have a calculator and it says like 6%, and they just say your return of investment with our pool is 5.8% or something. So the difference is gobbled up by the pool. So that's how other staking implementations or staking pools are saying what the fee is. They're not really transparent. They try to hide it in an equation. People can figure it out, but it's not transparent, and we want to be transparent.
Yeah, I'm more or less following the same road as a staking. I only thought of it as conceptually regarding the fees, having like an upper bound and lower bound, and that scales proportionally to the total amount and the stake that the validator currently has. And the reason for that is also to like encourage decentralization and discourage people, to all join the same pool. But yeah, it really depends on other validators how much they care about that. If for example a big exchange pops up and they have like a valid and they provide a pool service as well, and everybody joins from that exchange, then yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, that's the hard part. We can be really nice guys, but that doesn't mean that we'll be profitable, right? So
not everybody will be nice guys.
Yeah, of course. It's definitely a very nice concept. So
yeah, absolutely, I like it a lot.
Hope that it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way the pool or the hash rate is divided now, it is also really hard, right? People don't really look at what it means for them. They just pack a pool and then just mine there, and if they don't get paid out, they complain. But they don't make an informed decision most of the time. They just mine because someone tells them to mine there. So that's a little bit of an issue, right? So we need to incentivize people to mine with us, but also be transparent and have a competitive pool fee. So they still want to mine with us. So if people see, oh, they have a really high pool fee, we'll never go there, then we lose customers in that sense. So it's pretty hard not to crack, I think. So that's why Jake also said, yeah, depends on how other pools are going to implement it.
Well, you have to keep in mind that you also have like this validator score. Maybe something can take into account, if you are proving more or less that you're willing to help in terms of decentralization, you can like get maybe a small boost or something. I don't know how that is going to get calculated. If you can prove you are, lowering your fees, increase your fees when you're becoming big, then you're contributing positively to the network, and maybe that's worth something.
Yeah, I think
I do certainly think so.
We probably also have some possibilities to kind of steer the user a little bit when it comes to staking. I mean, the miners right now, they basically set up they choose their pool kind of outside of our user interfaces, right? But a lot of stakers might actually rely on the Nimiq wallet to set up their stake. And by designing that particular user interface flow in a way where we kind of suggest a validator to the user that we choose based on network metrics to kind of get an even distribution of validators or of stake across validators, then we at least have a little bit of a shot there where we can try to distribute users that are using the wallet to stake.
Yeah. Will there be an option so we can implement it in our front end as well to stake? So that you get redirected or have some kind of stake with us and just press a button and then they get redirected to the front end so they can stake with us? Because now we are relying on the interface of Nimiq, and that's fine, right? But if you want to get people from outside of Nimiq, because otherwise it's more or less, you need to know Nimiq already before you know how to stake and stuff. But we can also help users on board, so we can advertise on other places that they think, oh, that's cool, like I can stake here, and then that would be cool, I guess.
There's a suggestion that we can certainly forward to design team. It is obviously going to diminish what Philipp just said, because then we are basically giving out the opportunity of steering users to the pools again, which I think is fine. So I'm going to forward this to design team.
Yeah, but otherwise it's also centralized, right?
Right.
Of course, yeah.
Because then the wallet is like the central place where the only way to stake on pools is at the wallet, and we can basically make a sort kind of redirect to promote ourselves a bit.
So yeah, I think there will also with the mining pools right now. I think there will be like some lists, some curated list of pools in the wallet, right? And we can certainly also, have a link there to the respective mining pool site, or have, an option to kind of directly select a particular stake from the outside with like a deep link or something into the wallet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the plan is mostly to have some type of ranking for the stakers, as you have in other blockchains. Normally there's some directory of staking pools and like some trust numbers or some ranking. And the idea is to have our own ranking. There might be others, but at least on our case, we will take into account the size of the pool and other metrics that are dangerous for the entire network. And then probably, by taking the lead in taking care with the size of the pool, we expect the rest of the community to be more aware of that.
Yeah, it makes sense. Then if you want to know, the miner.nimiq.com, the referral on Ace mining is pretty high. It's like the top referral link. So actually, most miners come from there. For some reason, a lot of people still web mining, but it actually helps. But we also there's also a few other websites that are just for miners to see what coin is profitable and which pool is the best to use. So that's where I get my referrals from as well, and from the forum. So it would be useful if something like a deep link is implemented.
Yeah, I forwarded it to design, and we'll see what they think about it. I can certainly see this being a thing that we could do. I'll update you guys in Telegram once I know. It's probably going to be a little bit though. It's not going to be decided tomorrow. Yeah.
No, that's fine. You have a lot of work to do as well, and let's get everything up and running as one big network, right? That would be priority first, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So we can all participate in a real network and see what happens then, and then maybe break it. And then
let's hope not.
And then at some point, hopefully not break it, right?
Yes. But if we break it before we go live, that is always better, right?
Yeah, of course. As long as it breaks, it should break immediately, hopefully.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. If you guys want us to test or do anything, just hit us up or any questions, or we are always open to suggestions or helping to test something.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
We're
also planning to do this Dev-Connect thing a little more on a regular basis now. So that always gives us the opportunity to sync up a little bit.
Cool.
Yeah, current thought is basically to do this once a month, like maybe first Thursday of a month or so, to keep in touch and keep us informed of basically your needs, and also keep you informed of basically what we are up to. I think that makes a bunch of sense.
Yeah, I think that's really useful. Just the communication alone is really useful, because then we know what we can do, and maybe we can help somewhere, or maybe we have an idea to help you guys somehow. So I think that's always useful.
Yeah, as you've seen, it works in both ways. I mean, the suggestions with the referral links and so on, that's something we didn't even think about.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thanks a lot. I don't know if there's any other further questions for now. We're approaching the hour, so I think maybe we can start wrapping it up.
I have no further questions. I speak a lot, but I have no further questions.
Me neither.
No, we appreciate a lot your participation, guys. Okay, guys. So I think then for now, I will say thank you for joining, and thanks also to the core team for joining and taking some time to answer the questions. I think we all agree this is very important. As Basti said, let's try to keep doing it in a regular session. Maybe in a month we can have another one, and then we can keep you guys informed what we're up to. And at some point, as Maestro said, getting the help from the community directly testing, that would be super cool. Okay, thanks a lot. Yep.
Maybe one more thing. I mean,
sorry.
We before we started the call today, we also didn't really know what you guys expect or what you want to know. So if you have some suggestions, ideas, what we should talk about, you can also let us know beforehand, or if you want some changes to the format. For example, we didn't know whether we should present a lot or whether we should just come together and talk with each other. I think it was quite nice the way it was right now, but if you think that some other format would be better, let us know as well, and we can improve that.
Yeah, I think it's useful if we have some questions, we can, and it's a broader topic or something, that we can park it for a session like this. So, and in the past, we discussed a lot of useful stuff with Bruno and Basti as well in the Telegram chat, but it's always getting away, right? Because we all chat, and then it's somewhere in the mountain of messages. So maybe a recap or something. If we have something interesting said this month, then we can also discuss that a little bit with the other people. And this is getting recorded, so it's for in the future, it's maybe useful that, because it's some kind of history we make, maybe, and it's useful to have all the information again.
Perfect. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, me too.
Yep.
Yeah, Telegram can be somewhat spammy sometimes. That is true.
Yeah, and there was a lot of useful information. We used a lot of that information. So other people that did not follow and starting to implement their pool, they maybe miss information, or you can always look at code, but sometimes there is a reason why something is done the way it's done, and that's also useful to know. And that Bruno and Basti most of the time just informed us really well why certain things are the way they are, and that's really useful information. So we can recap it or just place it somewhere. So
don't forget Sören here. He is also very active in that channel.
Yeah, exactly. Sören as well.
Quite active, yeah.
So yeah, maybe that's a suggestion for next.
Yeah, noted. Thanks a lot. Well, yeah, and in general, thanks everybody for joining, and thanks for your feedback. I think it's really valuable.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Yes, and thank you for taking the time to speak with us, of course.
Yeah, thanks for all the details, yeah, and thanks for joining everybody. Bye-bye.
Perfect, thank you. Bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye, everybody.
See you next month.
Bye.
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 Bye.